just a moment, but that should mean that we'll be good to go for the actual hearing at 5:30. So I'll let you know as soon as I've got all those settings changed.
Aaron, how do you pronounce your last name?
Panko?
Panko?
Yep.
I don't know if it was like pancake, Panko.
That works.
No, I want to get it right.
Ron, I have Tyrone. That's the one of the applicants, right?
Right, he is the applicant.
Okay, he's trying to join the Zoom meeting. So were you planning on having him speak? I can admit him. I don't know.
Probably not. If there's nobody to speak, there's no real reason for rebuttal, and that's, of course, he's interested. So,
but we are all set to go on all of our settings. So at 5:30 we can go ahead and start.
Alrighty, I see it's 5:30 now. So I'm going to open this hearing. My name is Catherine Pratt. I'm tonight's hearing officer. The order of proceedings is as follows. The staff report presented by Aaron Panko, applicant's presentation limited to 15 minutes, neighborhood report, if any, limited to 10 minutes, and then testimony from those who signed up today before 3 p.m. That testimony will go in the following order: testimony in favor of the application, testimony in opposition, testimony that's neutral. And then if necessary, the applicant will be allowed a rebuttal testimony limited in scope to issues that are raised in opposition, and that'll be limited to 5 minutes. I want to direct your attention to the applicable criteria found in the notice. The testimony and evidence for the public hearing must be directed towards these criteria: conditional use permit, class 3 site plan, class 2 driveway approach permit, class 1 design review for 2410 Fairgrounds Road, Northeast Salem, 97301. For conditional use permit, SCR chapter 2040.005D states that an application for a conditional use permit shall be granted if all of the following conditions are met. 1, the proposed use is allowed as a conditional use in the zone. 2, the reasonable likely adverse impacts of the use on the immediate neighborhood can be minimized through the imposition of conditions. And 3, the proposed use will be reasonably compatible with and have minimal impact on the livability or appropriate development of surrounding property. Subsection 1, there is an unreasonable hardship or practical difficulty created by the physical characteristics of the land. Class 3 site plan review. SRC chapter 220.005 F3 states that an application for class 3 site plan review shall be granted if A, the application meets all of the applicable standards of the UDC, B, the transportation system provides for the safe, orderly, and efficient circulation of traffic into and out of the proposed development, and negative impacts to the transportation system are mitigated adequately. C, parking areas and driveways are designed to facilitate safe and efficient movements of vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. And D, the proposed development will be adequately served with city water, sewer, stormwater facilities, and other utilities appropriate to the nature of the development. Class 2 driveway approach permit. SRC chapter 804.025D states that a class 2 driveway approach permit shall be granted if 1, the proposed driveway approach meets the standards of this chapter and the Public Works design standards. 2, no site conditions prevent placing the driveway approach in the required location. 3, the number of driveway approaches onto an arterial are minimized. 4, the proposed driveway approach, where possible, A, is shared with an adjacent property, or B, takes access from the lowest classification of street abutting the property. 5, the proposed driveway approach meets the vision clearance standards. 6, the proposed driveway approach does not create traffic hazards and provides for safe turning movements and access. 7, the proposed driveway approach does not result in significant adverse impacts to the vicinity. 8, the proposed driveway approach minimizes impact to the functionality of adjacent streets and intersections. And 9, the proposed driveway approach balances the adverse impacts to residentially zoned property and the functionality of adjacent streets. Class 1 design review. SRC Chapter 225.005E1 states that a Class 1 design review shall be approved if all of the applicable design review standards are met. Numeral 7, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city or other parties the opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the State Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to that issue precludes an appeal. It precludes an action for damages to the circuit court. Are there any objections on jurisdictional grounds on the holding of this hearing? Seeing none, the hearing for CU SPR DAP DR 2207 property at 2410 Fairgrounds Road, Northeast Salem, Oregon 97301 is open. And if Aaron Pinko can give us the staff report.
You bet. Good evening. My name's Aaron Pinko with the Planning Division. Let me share my screen here. Are you able to see this? Great. So yeah, my name's Aaron Pank with the Planning Division. This is a conditional use permit, Class 3 site plan review, Class 2 driveway approach permit, and Class 1 design review for property located at 2410 Fairgrounds Road Northeast. At this time, I'd like to enter into the record the staff report, including its attachments. I'd also like to note that our Salem Revised Code requires posting for public hearings no earlier than 14 days and no later than 10 days prior to the public hearing. The public hearing notice in this case was delayed by a few days, so it does not comply with the requirements that we have posting. So staff is recommending that the hearings officer leave the record open for additional testimony to be provided following the hearing tonight. And let's see, this property, it's approximately 1.24 acres in size. It's located within the urban service area. The property has frontage along Fairgrounds Road Northeast, which is designated as a major arterial in the Salem Transportation System Plan. It also has frontage along a local street to the south, Smith Street Northeast. And there's frontage along the eastern portion of the property for Union Pacific Railroad. This is a zoning map of the property, and this is the zoning that was applicable at the time the application was submitted. It's a little clunky here. So the property, it's split zoned CG, general commercial, and IC, industrial commercial. So the CG is in that pink color and IC is in the darker purple color. And it was also located within the Pine Street mixed use overlay zone. And then this is a current map for the property, a zoning map. And this follows the our Salem zone changes that took effect in August of this year. So the subject property is now zoned MU1, mixed use 1, and the Pine Street mixed use overlay zone was removed. So motor vehicle sales and motor vehicle services are no longer allowed uses for the property in the MU1 zone, but under state law, approval or denial of the application is based upon the standards and criteria that were applicable at the time that the application was first submitted, and that's under the CG and IC zones and the Pine Street mixed use overlay. This is an aerial photo of the property. The property is currently vacant. It was formerly a landscape materials supply area. Let's see, we have other uses in the area include a motor vehicle sales use that's abutting just to the north. And then across Smith Street, we have some retail sales, appliance repair. Across Fairgrounds Road, there's retail sales and there's a mixed use building right in that immediate area. And you can see on the photo too the railroad. Across the railroad is the Oregon State Fairgrounds Road, or Oregon State Fairgrounds property. And this is a photo from the center there, Fairgrounds Road, looking towards the property. All of the previous use has been removed, and the site is mostly hard surface at this time. And this is another photo just taken at a different angle, looking kind of to the south towards the site. The proposed use includes development of a new motor vehicle services use and motor vehicle sales use and motor vehicle services use in 2 phases of development. Phase 1 includes development of a 900 square foot office building right up next to Fairgrounds Road, and development of a vehicle display area. And phase 2 includes construction of a new 7,500 square foot building that may be used for motor vehicle services uses. However, the final tenants for the building have not been determined at this time. The property is vacant. The proposal includes installation of new trees and new landscaping at the perimeter of the property. And then new sidewalks and street trees will be installed along Smith Street as the street frontage is improved along the south. Motor vehicle sales and motor vehicle services are allowed within the Pine Street mixed use overlay zone with a conditional use permit. The public review process with the conditional use permit provides an opportunity to evaluate the compatibility of a proposed use with the surrounding area and to minimize any reasonably likely adverse impacts through the imposition of conditions. The Portland Fairgrounds Road corridor does have several existing motor vehicle sales uses in the area. One of the most likely adverse impacts from the use could be with the lighting on the site. And there are some residential uses that were just constructed in the area directly across Fairgrounds Road. So staff is recommending that the hearings officer adopt a condition of approval limiting the normal hours of operation to between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So vehicle display area lighting should be turned off outside of those normal hours to limit the impact of a light on the surrounding area. So pedestrian lighting and lighting, in the office building could still be permitted. It's really the display area lighting that we're most concerned with. Site plan review process is used to ensure that any new development is in compliance with the development standards of the zoning code. And in general, the standards include maximum building height, setbacks, off-street parking standards, landscaping and solid waste service area requirements. The applicant did not request any adjustments to development standards for the underlying zones. Parking standards or general development standards. For the most part, they met those standards. We are recommending a few conditions to make sure that some project enhancements that are required by the overlay zone are complied with. And then to ensure that the landscaping with phase 1 meets our development requirements. But as otherwise, we're recommending approval with the conditions. And development within the Pine Street mixed use overlay zone is subject to the design review standards of the Salem Revised Code, Chapter 604, which provides additional standards for building location, building orientation and design, landscaping and off-street parking design. The proposal was evaluated for conformance with all applicable design standards, and each of the standards has been met or is found to not be applicable, with the exception of the weather protection standard that requires a minimum 50% of the length of the ground floor building facade adjacent to sidewalks or pedestrian connections to have weather protection. So the proposed building in phase 2 includes the pedestrian pathways and walkways around the entire building. And the building design as submitted didn't quite comply with that. So staff is recommending a condition that at the time of building permit, the applicant will need to demonstrate compliance with that standard. Let's see. Notice of the application was provided to surrounding property owners and to the Highland Neighborhood Association. No public testimony was provided during the public comment period. We did receive comments from Highland Neighborhood Association in advance We provided a summary of the concerns and a response to the concerns in the staff report. We also received comments from Portland General Electric, which were summarized in the staff report. They had some concerns about some of their existing equipment in the area near the proposed office building. The applicant has been advised of the comments and is going to be working with Portland General Electric to resolve any issues they may have with building location and placement. And staff is recommending approval or that the hearings officer approve the conditional use permit, site plan review, driveway approach permits, and design review collective applications subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Would the applicant like to submit a presentation or have a presentation?
My name is Ronald Penn. I'm an architect here in Salem. I do business at 1220 20th Street Southeast, Salem 97302. At this time, I'd like to thank staff for their help in preparing the application. And since I'm not going to belabor, or I'm not going to make a presentation at this time, and if there's some testimony, that I'll wait till rebuttal. Do you have any questions I can answer at this time?
No, I don't. Thank you. And then, Aaron, is there anyone online that is here to provide a commentary or testimony?
We have not had anyone sign up, so no.
All right. So in that case, Mr. Head, I don't see any reason for a rebuttal, but you are always free to add any additional comments that you would have made. So if you so choose.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Based on staff recommendation, the record is going to remain open until 5 p.m. On January 4th. Rebuttal will then be open for a week after that, closing at 5 p.m. on January 11th. And then final written argument by the applicant is due January 18th by 5 p.m. So at this time, the hearing is now closed, and thank you everyone for participating.
Thank you.
Aaron, can I ask you a question?
Sure. Are we offline here or?
Not yet.